the next section of questions we've organized into is feedback. And this one, 82nd Todd says, most would think they have the best map ever, yet it just does not have the basic quality needed to be showcased. With that understanding and knowing that you receive a lot of submissions and figuring that a fair number of them are just not the kind of quality maps you tend to feature, how do you let someone know they really need to learn more about Forge and the techniques of it politely? Um, it's kind of difficult because sometimes no one wants to hear that their map isn't up to par or whatever, and a lot of people don't quite understand that if I tell someone, hey, your map has issues X, Y, and Z, I'm not saying your map sucks. I'm saying your map would be good if you did this. So please, take the time, go back, take this feedback to heart. Go back, do this, test it, and it'll be better. You know, um, that's what we try to do. We try to give constructive criticism. But then, of course, the real kicker is time. So we get so many maps submitted to us, we can't get feedback out to everyone who submits a map. So unfortunately, the maps that aren't up to par, we can't always go back and tell the author like, hey, I wish that this, and that, were different or whatever. So it's kind of tough. But we try to be as polite and constructive as possible, and we get feedback out to as many people as possible. But it's time consuming, and we don't have infinite time.
And then second part of his question is, have you received any terrible maps? Without naming names, what are some of your reactions? So we do receive a lot of terrible maps. But the way it works is when we get our maps on 343, we can usually tell by the images or the description. If there's really terrible spelling and grammar, it's probably a little kid. So we'll take a look at the map and instantly know, um, just by the looks of it, that some of these maps are terrible. Back in the day, we had thought about maybe even making a series of our top worst maps submitted
Uh,
and just like tearing them apart, or just looking at the most downloaded maps.
right, right.
Giant ramp or like awesome helicopter. We downloaded one called Awesome Helicopter a long time ago, and it was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. It was awesome. So you do see a lot of terrible maps out there. And as a Forge channel, we just try and make the best ones rise to the top, and we try and filter those and bring them to you guys. And I know there's a lot of flaws with the system, but we're doing our best.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some maps that have made me laugh pretty hard, but again, we still try to, be as polite and constructive with our criticism as possible.
Um,
So then J-Dog Millennium says, could you attempt to allocate your time searching for good maps by unpopular foragers instead of maps by well-known foragers that have been featured and dissected by many other YouTubers? Well, here's the thing. We will feature the best maps independent. Wow, that was really loud. I don't know what that was. Independent of who made them. I've featured maps by people I really don't like before. I've featured maps by people I've never heard of before. I've featured maps by my friends before. It's I mean, I'm gonna feature if I see two maps and one's better than the other, I'm gonna feature the better one. And it and if that happens because if it happens that the person who made the better one is more well known, then so be it. Because as unfair as it may seem, we want to get less known people out there, but
the
the
the thing is,
you know,
they're less known, so it's hard to find them. Um,
right. Well, yeah, it's
yeah.
hard to find, but it's like it would be even more unfair to hold the better map back and ignore the better map because this is something that happened with the Meet Your Maker results. It was, some of you guys complained that, you had already heard of the maps that won. Well, they're the best maps. So should we have selected, the maps that weren't as good to be winners simply because some of you guys had heard of those maps before? That's completely arbitrary and unfair. So, we can't do that. And I would love to find some more lesser known guys and get them out there. But it's what it comes down to is the best maps will get featured, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, and there are
um,
there are a couple of comments in this same category, and we wanted to address it. So Spider-Man says, Why do you guys share videos between your YouTube accounts? Never check the forums for maps and always review your and your friends' maps instead of check out the new content on the forum for new forgers with a spark of talent. And this is kind of in the same spirit as the previous one. The implication being essentially that these guys think that we just go out and choose our friend's map and only promote those. We've built ourselves as a channel that wants to promote any map that we find and encounter that's really the best map out there and that we've had fun playing. The problem is we're people with limited time, and it's not our job to go out and look for every single map out there, play it, test it. We get so many submissions that it's all about how do we hear about them. So, we do look through the forums. We don't always have time to post comments and feedback on all of them, but I browse through the aesthetic features forum and the flood forum all the time. I don't always post comments, so maybe it's not obvious, but I think every single one of my aesthetic features has come from the 343 forum. So we do look through there. It
Right.
just might not be obvious to you.
Yeah, we wouldn't have, worked out this partnership with 343 Community Forum and set up these forums for submissions if we weren't going to look at them. We do look at them, and we try to get feedback, in there. But again, our time is, given how many submissions there are, we can't, go through every single one and give feedback and all that. So,
Yeah. And
and
another comment in the same sort of
yeah.
you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, man, the fort. You guys feature a lot of community maps, but all of the maps and game modes you featured, or competitive at least, I haven't seen on your forum. People have been submitting maps. Do you actually go through the map list? Yes. Again, I go through the map list. There's a lot of maps I see on the forums where it's like, okay, this is a great start. And then I will, and then I'll take the time and I'll contact the author and I'll be like, hey, can you fix this? If you fix this, I'll feature your map. But if you don't fix it, I can't feature it. So, and and I've had authors be like, oh yeah, yeah, I'll do it sometime, and it's like, okay, like, or no, no, I'm not going to do that. And so it's, um, I try my best. I want to feature content out of the competitive forum, and and there's good maps there, but what tends to happen, I'm pretty well connected throughout the competitive forging community. So maps that are, finished and don't have these flaws, I tend to hear of anyways. So they tend not to go through the forums as much. And then the pattern I see with maps in the forums is that, a lot of them are really good, have a lot of potential, but aren't quite there. So, I try to work with the authors to the best of my ability to get them to improve, fix a couple things, but it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and like I said, for the aesthetic section, I featured all the ones that look great there just because that's easiest to do. I can tell by the pictures and the description. I'll feature anyone there if I think the content is good. I know a lot of you guys have posted there. We haven't posted the videos, but we have a lot of these videos on reserve, just waiting to be dropped.
Right.
So some of these we have gotten to. As for the flood section, it's flood is kind of a questionable area right now because Mr. Pokefowl is technically in charge of flood. I used to do it, but I don't have time for infection. So flood is kind of up in the air right now. So we're gonna try and get more people to look at that section of the forum. I've seen some cool maps in there, and I send them over to Pokefowl, who takes a look at them. But it's kind of an up in the air situation for flood. So I'll go ahead and look through those forums. But I do keep a list of the top ones, and we'll get to those. So the next question is going to be Chase It Down, and he says, you guys need more community events. You should have all day or 2 days where we can all play with you guys. So that's something we've tried to do, and I think the best way to answer this is go to Halo Customs. There's events all the time. UC has custom games regularly, so check that out. As for scheduling events on the main channel, it's a little hard for us to do because we can announce that, but maximum size of a lobby is 16 people. So I think if we do that, people will feel left out, and it's
Right.
way too crowded. So I would say head over to Halo Customs. And next, we're going to move on to Outside Halo.